It was raining that day. The kind of rain that doesn't just fall, it weeps with you. I stood there, holding an umbrella that shook in my hand, staring at the coffin that carried my only daughter, Emily. People whispered behind me. Some cried. But I couldn't move, because when a mother buries her child, she buries a piece of herself too. Emily was my sunshine, my laughter, my best friend. She called me every morning just to say, "Mom, did you eat?" Now all I had was silence, and the sound of rain hitting the ground, beat of reflection. Todd, my son-in-law, stood across from me. Black suit, dry eyes. He looked at his watch more than he looked at her grave. Something in me tightened. But I told myself, grief looks different on everyone. After the service, I thanked the guests, hugged family, tried to stay strong. Todd didn't say a word. Not a hug, not even a glance. He just kept looking at his phone. Later that evening, I went back to the house where Emily grew up, the one where her laughter still lived in the walls. I had made her favorite soup that morning before the funeral, and it was still sitting cold on the counter when I walked in. Then I heard it. The sharp click of metal. A man by the door with tools in his hands. A locksmith, I frowned. "What's going on?" I asked. Todd stepped forward, calm, too calm. "Oh, you're still here?" he said. His tone made my stomach turn. "I live here, Todd," I whispered, confused. He smiled, but it wasn't kind. Not anymore. Behind him stood a few relatives, silent, uncomfortable. The locksmith twisted another screw. The door creaked. Todd said, "This house is in Emily's name. And since she's gone, it's mine now." I blinked, not understanding. "What do you mean yours? Emily and I bought this place together years before you married her." He shrugged. "Paperwork says otherwise." He looked down at his watch again. "You have 20 minutes to pack your things." My world stopped. I couldn't breathe. 20 minutes. After burying my child? He walked past me, talking like it was business. "I've already changed the locks." "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I looked at the family. No one said a word. They all just watched like it wasn't real, like I was invisible. My heart screamed inside my chest. Emily had trusted him, loved him. How could he do this now? I went to her room. The bed was still unmade from the night before she got sick. Her perfume still lingered in the air. I touched her photo frame. My fingers trembled. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," I whispered. "I never thought the man you loved would turn into this." I could hear Todd downstairs talking to someone. "Make sure she's out by 6. I'll drop the keys off tomorrow." The locksmith laughed. And that laugh, it echoed like thunder. I packed what I could. Just a few clothes. A photo of Emily at her wedding, her smile brighter than the sun. I left the rest behind. As I stepped outside, the door slammed behind me. The lock clicked one final time. I stood there, holding a single suitcase, watching the home I'd built become someone else's property. For a long time, I didn't move. The rain soaked through my clothes. The streetlights blurred in my tears. That's when I realized I wasn't just grieving my daughter. I was losing everything she'd ever loved. But then, someone tapped my shoulder. It was Emily's old friend, Sarah. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands held something. "Your daughter asked me to give you this," she whispered. If anything ever happened, she pressed a small brown envelope into my palm. It had my name written in Emily's handwriting. I looked up, confused. "What is this?" I asked. Sarah just shook her head. "She said you'd know when to open it." I stared at the envelope, cold and damp in my hand. Something inside me shifted, like a spark in the dark. Maybe Emily wasn't as powerless as Todd thought. Maybe this wasn't over. Gentle pause. "Tell me something. If you were in my place, standing in the rain with nowhere to go, would you open that envelope right there, or wait until you were safe?" Don't forget to subscribe, because what happens next will break your heart before it sets it on fire. I looked down at the envelope again and whispered, "What did you leave me, Emily?" I don't even know how I made it to the car. The rain had slowed, but inside me, a storm was still raging. I sat behind the wheel, gripping that little brown envelope like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The street felt so empty. And so did I. Emily was gone. And now, so was my home. I started the engine, but I had no idea where to go. No plan, no one waiting. And just like that, I was 68 years old. With no daughter, no husband, no house. I pulled into an empty grocery store parking lot and turned off the engine. My hands were still shaking. I looked at the envelope again. My name written in Emily's handwriting. She always made her letters round and soft. Even now, I could hear her voice. Mom, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. But I didn't open it. Not yet, not there. Instead, I sat and cried. I don't mean soft crying. I mean ugly, aching sobs that come from the part of you thought you'd buried with your youth. I cried for Emily. I cried for the house. I cried for the way Todd had looked at me like I was just in the way. And then I got mad. Because grief is strange like that. It doesn't stay one thing. It keeps changing faces. And suddenly I wasn't just sad. I was angry. I thought about how Todd stood there with that smug face giving me 20 minutes. 20. Like I was some stray cat. He changed the locks before the funeral was even over. Did he plan it all? Did he already have those papers drawn up while Emily was still alive? And the others? The family who just watched it happen. Not one of them said, "This isn't right." I had given them all Sunday dinners, babysat their kids, helped them through job losses. And now I was just an old woman with nowhere to go. So I drove. Not toward any place. Just away, until I reached the edge of town. A little motel with flickering lights and a cracked driveway. It wasn't much, but it was all I had. I checked in. Used the emergency cash Emily always told me to keep just in case. Funny how she always said that. Just in case, Mom. You never know. The room smelled like bleach and old cigarettes. But it was warm. And it had a bed. I sat down, laid the envelope on the pillow, and finally, I opened it. Inside was a folded letter and a second envelope. Thicker, heavier, official-looking. I opened the letter first. Mom, if you're reading this, something happened to me. And I know Todd, he won't wait. He'll try to take everything, I gasped. The words hit me like a slap. She knew. She knew this might happen. Her letter continued. I couldn't stop him from being who he is. But I tried to protect you. I bought something. It's not big, but it's yours. Everything in that second envelope will explain it. Go to Mr. Keller. He's the lawyer Dad trusted. He'll help you. Tears blurred the words, but I kept reading. And Mom, I love you more than life itself. Don't let him win. Love, Emily. I held that letter to my chest. I felt like she was right there in the room. Todd had taken my house, but Emily, she'd left me something bigger. A reason to fight. I opened the second envelope. Inside was a deed. A small rural property, registered in my name. Paid in full, it was a cabin. Emily had secretly bought me a cabin. A place to start again. A place where Todd had no power. I sat back, stunned. My daughter, even in her final days, had planned to protect me. And Todd, he thought he had erased me. But he didn't know Emily, and he sure didn't know me. I grabbed my phone and called the number Emily wrote at the bottom of the page. It rang once, twice. Then, Law Office of Robert Keller, a kind voice answered. My voice shook. This is Margaret Daniels. My daughter Emily told me to call you. If something happened to her. There was a pause. Then a deep voice said gently, I've been expecting your call. Hooked tone, slow beat. And that's when I knew. Emily had seen this coming. She had planned everything. And whatever Todd had taken from me, I was about to take something back. Because that little cabin wasn't just wooden walls. It was a warning Todd never saw coming. But what Emily left behind was more than just a deed. It was a secret Todd would do anything to hide. I sat in that dusty motel room, holding a deed in one hand and my daughter's letter in the other. The paper felt heavy, but not because of weight, because of what it meant. Emily had bought me a cabin. A place with my name on it. She never told me. Why would she keep that a secret? That's what I planned to ask Mr. Keller. I drove to his office the next morning, nervous but ready. It was a small brick building on the edge of town, the kind that had been there for years. The receptionist smiled kindly and said, "He's waiting for you." I stepped into his office, and there he was, an older man with tired eyes and soft hands. He stood up right away. "Mrs. Daniels," he said, "I'm so sorry about Emily. She spoke of you often. That almost broke me." I nodded and handed him the letter and deed. "She told me to come to you. Said you'd help." He read every word slowly, like each one carried weight. When he finished, he looked up. "She did prepare this for you, about 2 months ago." He paused. "She was worried, Margaret. About Todd, about what would happen if—" His voice trailed off. I didn't press. I could feel it too. Emily had been scared. She didn't want him to touch this property. He continued. "She paid for it in cash. Transferred the deed to your name. Left instructions in case—" He tapped the folder gently. "In case he turned into exactly what he became." I swallowed hard. "But what about the house? The one Todd kicked me out of?" Mr. Keller's expression shifted. He reached for a second folder. "This is what you don't know," he said. "Emily changed her will. Just 2 weeks before she passed." I froze. "What? She left you something?" he said slowly. "Actually, she left you half of everything." "Half?" I stared at him, my heart racing. "You mean the house? Her accounts? Her belongings?" He nodded. "It's all in the new will." I filed it. "But Todd never mentioned it, did he?" "No, of course not. That snake had acted fast, before the dust even settled. Before Emily's body was cold, I felt heat rising in my chest. Not anger, rage. He sold her jewelry," I whispered. "And her piano. And clothes. He had an estate sale the same day as her funeral dinner." Mr. Keller's face darkened. "That's illegal if the estate is still in probate. And since you're a named heir—" He leaned forward. "That means you have rights?" I sat back stunned. I had been thrown out like garbage. "But the law said otherwise." "He changed the locks," I said, shaking my head. "He told me I had 20 minutes. Mr. Keller's voice was steady. "He had no right, not without this will being read in court. And if he touched any joint property, we have grounds." I looked at the deed again. The cabin. It was beautiful. But now I had something even stronger. A legal truth Todd couldn't hide. Mr. Keller handed me a list. "These are the next steps. We'll file this new will with the court. Then we freeze the estate." He handed me another sheet. "Also, Emily left a note with me. I was instructed to only give it to you in person." He opened a drawer and pulled out a small white envelope. My name written again. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside, just one line. "Check the safe behind the dresser." That's all it said. 7 words. But I knew exactly where. Emily's old bedroom. The room I helped paint when she was 16. Where she kept her journals. Her secrets. She had a safe. I remembered it now. Small, hidden in the wall behind a tall oak dresser. I helped her install it years ago, after her first apartment break-in. Could it still be there? Did Todd even know about it? My hands clenched. I had to get back inside that house. Not to fight him, but to find what Emily left behind. Because if she went through this much trouble, then she knew something I didn't, something big, and I was going to find it. Even if I had to crawl through a window, even if Todd was standing there waiting, this wasn't just about a house anymore. It was about truth, and justice, and a promise between a mother and her daughter, even after death. I grabbed my purse, tucked the note inside, and walked out of that law office with fire in my heart. Todd thought he locked me out. But he forgot something. He forgot about the safe, and what was waiting inside. I drove for hours. Just me, Emily's letter, and that folded-up deed sitting in the passenger seat like it was watching over me. The address on the paper took me to a place I hadn't been in years. A small, winding road in the hills where the trees grew tall and the air smelled like pine. I passed a creek, an old mailbox, and finally, there it was, the cabin. A little wooden house tucked into the trees like it had been waiting for me. like it already knew my name. I stepped out of the car and just stood there. For the first time in days, I could breathe. It wasn't fancy. The porch creaked. The shutters needed paint. But it was quiet, and it was mine. I unlocked the front door. Emily had left a key taped inside the deed envelope. Classic Emily, always thinking 3 steps ahead. The door opened with a soft groan, and inside, it was warm, a small fireplace, 2 rocking chairs, a little table with a vase, fake flowers but still full of life. And on the mantel, a picture, me and Emily, taken 5 years ago at her birthday. Both of us laughing, mouths wide open, cheeks red from the wine. I didn't even remember her taking it. But there it was, already in a frame. Already waiting. I fell to my knees and cried all over again. She planned this. Every detail. Even while she was sick. She thought of me. She knew Todd. She knew what he'd do. And she made sure he couldn't take this. I spent the night there. Wrapped in a blanket. Fire crackling. Her letter by my side. I thought I'd never feel peace again. But that night, I slept. For the first time since she died. In the morning, I called Mr. Keller and gave him the cabin's address. He said the court process had started. The new will was officially in play. Todd would be notified. And everything would be frozen until the judge reviewed it. But I couldn't wait around. I needed to know what Todd was doing. What he'd already taken. So I drove back into town. Didn't even stop for coffee. My stomach was tight with something, not fear, not grief, something harder. Like a mother's rage, I pulled up to my old house, and I couldn't believe what I saw. People were in the yard, strangers, cars parked on the lawn, tables set up across the grass, an estate sale, Emily's things, her dishes, her sweaters, her books, all laid out with price tags. One woman held up a necklace. "That's real silver, right?" she asked. I stormed out of the car. My voice cracked as I yelled, "What is this? What are you doing with my daughter's things?" Todd came out of the house sipping coffee like it was any other Saturday. He smiled. Fake. Cold. "Morning, Margaret. You're trespassing." "Trespassing?" I shouted. "This is my daughter's home. These are her memories." He raised an eyebrow. "She's gone. And I'm her husband. Everything's in my control now, unless you have something that says otherwise. Oh, if only he knew." But I didn't say it. "Not yet. Let him feel safe. Let him get sloppy." "You didn't even wait," I said. "You didn't give her a moment of peace." He shrugged. "You don't know how debt works, Margaret. You don't know what she left behind. I'm just trying to clean up her mess." Her mess? Emily wasn't the one holding sales on the lawn before the flowers wilted. I looked around. An old man was buying her piano. A couple was hauling out a dresser she'd refinished with her own hands. The table where she painted her nails. The chair she curled up in to read. And he was selling it all. For a few dollars. Like none of it mattered. "I'll be back," I said quietly. He laughed. "Don't hurt yourself climbing those hills." I walked away. But this time, I wasn't crying. This time, I had a plan. I called Mr. Keller again from the car. Told him what I saw. He sighed. He can't legally sell anything yet. Not while the will is pending. Especially not shared property. "Can I stop him?" I asked. "You already did," he replied. "I've got the court order. He'll be served tomorrow," I smiled. Not because I had won, but because now, Todd was going to realize he wasn't in charge anymore, and if he thought the cabin was the only surprise Emily left behind, he was in for a storm. Because Emily didn't just leave me a house. She left me a secret, and it was still waiting. Right behind the dresser, in a safe Todd never found. I waited until nightfall. The kind of night where even the crickets go quiet, where the world feels like it's holding its breath. I parked 2 streets away from the house I once called home. The lights inside were on. Music playing, laughter, Todd's laughter, low, mocking. He was having people over. Probably celebrating the sale of my daughter's life piece by piece. But tonight wasn't about grief. It was about answers. I slipped through the side gate, careful not to make a sound. The grass was wet from sprinklers, but my steps were steady. My heart was pounding, but my mind was clear. I knew exactly where to go. Emily's old bedroom window was still cracked open, just like she always left it. She said the air helped her sleep better. That habit, that small detail, became my way back in. I pushed it open, slid inside quietly, and closed it behind me. The room smelled faintly like lavender. But most of her things were gone. The books, the candles, the curtains she loved. Still, the walls remembered her. And so did I. I moved the tall oak dresser slowly, inch by inch, until my fingers brushed against cold metal. The safe, hidden behind a small panel she and I had installed years ago. My hands trembled as I knelt down. I whispered, "What did you hide in here, sweetheart?" The keypad blinked. 4 digits. I tried her birthday. Nothing. I tried mine. Still locked. Then it hit me. Her wedding anniversary. The day I walked her down the aisle while Todd waited with that fake smile. Click. The safe opened. Inside were folders. Dozens of them, some old. Some new bank statements, emails, and a small flash drive wrapped in tissue paper. I sat on the floor, flipping through the papers. There were withdrawals, large ones, from her personal account. But then deposits into another. A new account under her maiden name. Money she had been moving quietly. She was hiding money from Todd, protecting it. Protecting me. The deeper I read, the more my stomach twisted. Todd had taken out loans, big ones in Emily's name. Tens of thousands. And when she found out, she confronted him. I found a printed email, dated just 2 weeks before she died. It was from Emily to Mr. Keller. "Robert, please finalize the will changes. I'm not safe here anymore. Todd's been taking money and lying about the house. I'll send proof tomorrow." Tomorrow. The day before she got sick, my breath caught. Emily hadn't just been scared. She'd been planning something. The flash drive suddenly felt heavier in my hand. I shoved it into my purse. Then I froze. Footsteps. Coming down the hall, Todd's voice, low, slurred. "Thought I heard something." I quickly pushed the dresser back, slid behind the curtain, and held my breath. The door opened. The light flicked on. He stood there, swaying slightly, holding a half-empty glass. His eyes scanned the room. He looked at the dresser for a long moment, then turned off the light and left. The door clicked shut. I waited until the sound of his footsteps faded down the hall before I moved. I climbed out the window, my hands still shaking. When my feet hit the ground, I ran, back to the car. Back to safety. Back to air. When I reached the cabin, I called Mr. Keller again. "I found something," I whispered. "Documents, emails, even a flash drive." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Bring everything tomorrow. Don't send copies. Don't talk to anyone else." "Why?" I asked. His tone changed, lower, serious. "Because this isn't just about property anymore, Mrs. Daniels. This looks like fraud. And if Emily knew, it might be worse than that." I hung up and stared at the papers spread across the table. Her handwriting, her banknotes, her fears. All of it right there in black and white. I touched the letter she left me again, reading that last line over and over. Don't let him win. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't just about inheritance. It was about justice. Todd didn't just steal her things. He had stolen her peace, her safety, maybe even her life. I turned off the lamp, sat by the window, and whispered into the darkness, "Don't worry, sweetheart. He won't win." But the next day, when Mr. Keller opened that flash drive, what we saw inside didn't just prove fraud, it proved Emily had been followed, and someone wanted her silenced. The next morning, I wrapped the flash drive in a hand towel, packed the files into a folder, and drove back into town. The air felt heavier, like the truth I was carrying had a weight of its own. When I stepped into Mr. Keller's office, he stood right away. No small talk, no coffee offered, just a serious nod. We sat across from each other and I handed him everything. He read the notes, skimmed the printouts, then plugged the flash drive into his computer. The room went silent, except for the soft clicking of his mouse. I watched his face as the screen lit up. First confused, then grim, then something darker. "Margaret," he said slowly. "This is bad. What is it?" I asked, my voice thin. He turned the monitor so I could see. There were folders, labeled by month. Emily had saved emails, screenshots, even voice recordings. In one file, she wrote, "Todd forged my signature. He opened 3 credit lines. He's lying about the second mortgage. In another, he changed the passwords on my accounts. I don't feel safe. I've moved some of the money. I'll finish the will update tomorrow." I blinked at the screen. "You mean he was stealing from her?" Keller nodded. "Textbook financial abuse. He isolated her. Took control of everything." He opened a recording file. We heard Emily's voice, shaky, whispering. "I don't want him to know I'm here. He said I embarrassed him at dinner." He threw my phone across the room. I'm scared to sleep. I covered my mouth. It felt like she was sitting in that room with us, telling me herself. My baby. My beautiful, brave girl, living with a man who made her afraid in her own home. He used her name for loans, Mr. Keller said, then funneled money into his own business account. He thought she wouldn't notice. "She did," I whispered. "She noticed everything, and she tried to protect herself. And me. She knew he'd come after me," I added. "That's why she left the cabin in my name." Keller leaned back in his chair. "This evidence is enough for a fraud case. Maybe even criminal charges." I shook my head. But she never got the chance to finish it. She got sick. "So fast," he looked up. "What exactly happened?" I hesitated. "She had the flu. That's what the hospital said. But she was young, healthy. It didn't make sense." Mr. Keller was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that made the air disappear from the room. Emily mentioned something else in her last email. She said, "If anything happens to me suddenly, tell my mom to check the red box." I froze. "That's exactly what I found in the safe," he continued. "She was scared of Todd, and now she's gone. And the timing? It's hard to ignore," I whispered. "Do you think he had something to do with it?" He didn't answer right away. He looked down, tapped his pen twice, then finally said, "I think we need to find out. Because if Emily's death wasn't an accident, then Todd wasn't just cruel, he was dangerous." The next few days felt like living inside a storm. Not loud, but still, everything shifting. The kind of storm that brews in silence. Mr. Keller got to work immediately. He handed everything over to a woman named Detective Hall. Retired from the force, now working private cases. She lost her own daughter years ago. So when she saw Emily's files, she didn't see paperwork. She saw a cry for help. "I've seen this before," she said quietly, flipping through the folders. "Controlling behavior, sudden illness, financial isolation. It's a pattern." I asked her if she thought Emily's death was planned. She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said enough. She started digging. Into Todd's accounts. Into his business. Into the hospital report that claimed natural causes. Meanwhile, Mr. Keller filed everything with the court. The new will. The fraud evidence. The recordings, he said. "We're not just fighting for your share, Margaret. We're fighting to clear Emily's name," I nodded. Because deep down, that's what mattered most. Not the house. Not the money. Just the truth. Just justice. And Emily's voice being heard, even after she was gone. A few days later, I got a call. Mr. Keller's voice was calm but firm. "It's time. What do you mean?" I asked. He smiled through the phone. "We're serving him today." I didn't ask how, but I knew where. Todd had been bragging about some fundraising gala he was attending. A fancy event in town where everyone important would be. He liked to show off. Pretend to be powerful, smile wide and shake hands like he was someone worth admiring. But tonight, that smile was going to crack. I stood in the back of the ballroom, wearing the only nice dress I had left, hair pulled up, heart steady. Todd walked in with a woman on his arm, not even 6 weeks after Emily's funeral. She was younger, smiling, clinging to his arm like a prize. I felt sick. He laughed loud, like a man with no ghosts, no shame, no soul. Then a man in a black suit approached him, pulled a white envelope from his coat. "Mr. Todd Adams?" Todd blinked. "Yeah?" "You've been served." He handed him the envelope. Just like that. No shouting. No warning. Just the truth, delivered on a silver platter. People turned. Eyes followed. The music faded into whispers. Todd froze. His smile fell. He looked at the papers, then scanned the room until he saw me. I didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't blink. I just met his eyes and said, "Emily didn't die for you to erase her." His jaw clenched. He crumpled the envelope and stormed out. The whispers grew louder behind him, and for the first time, I felt taller. Not because I won, but because I stood up, not just for me, but for my daughter. That night, Mr. Keller called. The judge reviewed the documents, he said. "He's taking it seriously." "We have a hearing. When?" I asked. He paused, then said, "Next week." My hand tightened on the phone. It was really happening. After the lies, after the humiliation, after the grief, we were going to court. And if Todd thought he could lie his way through it, he was about to learn what the truth looks like. In front of a judge. The courtroom was cold. Not just in temperature, but in feeling. Like the walls had seen too much pain to be warm anymore. I sat at the front with Mr. Keller by my side. He looked calm, but I knew him well enough by now. His hands only trembled when he was about to strike truth like lightning. Todd was already there when I walked in. Wearing a dark suit, slicked back hair, and that fake grin. He didn't look at me. Just scrolled on his phone like this was nothing more than a business meeting. But today, he wasn't in charge. The judge was, and she was sharp. Eyes like steel. Voice like a blade. When she banged her gavel, the room quieted. "This hearing is to determine the validity of the updated will of Emily Adams," she said, "and to address claims of financial misconduct by her husband, Mr. Todd Adams." It was real now. No going back. Mr. Keller stood first. He presented the updated will, the deed to the cabin, and Emily's handwritten letters. He showed the court the flash drive, the emails, the audio files. Then he said, "My client, Mrs. Margaret Daniels, was not only the rightful heir to her daughter's estate, she was also the target of a cruel and calculated attempt to erase her entirely." I could feel everyone's eyes on me. But I didn't look away. Then the judge called my name. I stood up, walked slowly to the witness stand, and placed my hand on the Bible. "Do you swear to tell the truth?" "I do." And then, I told my story. I told them about the funeral, about Todd changing the locks, about the 20 minutes, the envelope, the cabin. I didn't cry, not until I spoke her name. My daughter Emily was kind. She was thoughtful. And she was scared. I told them about the safe, the emails, the way Emily had warned me through her actions long before I understood what was happening. And when I finished, I looked right at Todd and said, "She didn't trust you. And neither do I." Next came Sarah, Emily's friend. She told the court how Emily had confided in her, how she was scared Todd was hiding things, how she asked her to hold the envelope, just in case. Then came the accountant. He brought the numbers, line after line of proof that Todd had opened accounts in Emily's name, moved money, created fake documents. The courtroom grew quiet as the fraud unfolded on paper. Even Todd's lawyer looked pale. Finally, the judge turned to Todd. "You may respond." He stood, straightened his jacket, cleared his throat. Then he laughed. "I'm being painted like some villain," he said. "My wife was emotional. She didn't understand finances." Gasps. Even the court reporter raised her eyebrows. He went on. "She was unstable near the end. She made up stories. Told people I was out to get her." He looked at me then, smiling. "I took care of her. I cleaned up her mess. And I don't regret it." Mr. Keller stood up fast. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Emily's voice recordings into the record, where she clearly states she feared for her safety. The judge nodded. Accepted. The audio played. Emily's voice filled the courtroom. He said I embarrassed him. He locked the bedroom door last night. I feel like I'm disappearing in my own home. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Not even the judge. Todd's smile finally cracked. The judge leaned forward. This court finds sufficient reason to proceed with a full estate investigation. All assets are to be frozen. Mr. Todd Adams is hereby barred from selling, transferring, or accessing any of the estate until further notice. She paused. And if we find evidence of criminal behavior, charges may follow. The gavel hit the block. It was done. For now. Outside the courtroom, I stood near the steps, breathing deep for the first time in weeks. The sky was cloudy. But I didn't feel cold. That's when I heard his voice behind me. You'll regret this, Margaret. I turned. Todd stood there, his hands clenched, face red. Eyes dark, he stepped closer. You think you've won? This isn't over. I didn't move. I just looked him in the eye and said, You're right, it's not over yet. Because next, the truth about Emily's death would come out, and Todd wasn't ready for what the detective had just uncovered. The courtroom was quieter than ever. It had been a week since the first hearing. 7 long days, nights filled with memories, questions, and prayers. Now, we were back. Same seats, same judge, but something in the air had shifted. Mr. Keller sat beside me, flipping through his notes one last time. I didn't ask him if we'd win, because I already knew the answer. The truth was on our side. Todd walked in with a tighter suit and a looser smile. His lawyer whispered fast in his ear. He wasn't laughing today. He barely looked at me. The judge entered. Everyone stood, and then it began. She started with the will. She confirmed that Emily's updated version was valid, signed, and properly filed. She looked directly at Todd. Your claim that the previous version was still active is invalid. Mrs. Daniels is entitled to 50% of the estate. I didn't breathe. Not for a few seconds. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Daniels, your daughter left clear instructions. She wanted you protected. She left you the home you shared. And she left you peace. My throat tightened. The courtroom doors didn't swing open. No gasps. No shouting, just justice. Quiet, strong, final. Then came the fraud charges. Mr. Keller presented the evidence again. Emily's notes. The emails, the flash drive. The judge said, This court finds sufficient cause to refer these findings to the district attorney's office for investigation into identity theft, financial fraud, and coercive control. Todd's face went pale. He stood up suddenly. This is insane. She was sick. She didn't know what she was doing. The judge raised her hand. Sit down, Mr. Adams. He did. Slower this time, she continued. All sales of property made during this process are now void. You are to return the funds or provide restitution for anything you sold. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Mr. Keller leaned toward me. It's over. I didn't speak. I couldn't, because in that moment, I could feel Emily, her strength, her planning, her love. She saw this moment coming. She built a path through the storm. And I had followed it, even when I could barely walk. When we left the courtroom, people nodded at me. A few even clapped, not because I beat Todd, but because I didn't back down. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, and for the first time in weeks, I felt warm. Later that evening, I returned to the cabin. The wind was gentle through the trees. The fire was crackling in the hearth, and on the porch was a small box wrapped in brown paper, no label, no note. Inside, it was a letter, sealed, with my name on it, in Emily's handwriting, and on the front, 4 simple words, for when you win. I sat down, held the letter in both hands, and whispered, What did you save for me, sweetheart? I sat in the old rocking chair on the porch. The fire was soft inside. The stars were starting to peek through the trees, and in my lap was the letter Emily's final gift. Her last words, saved for this exact moment. I took a deep breath, ran my fingers along the paper, and opened it. "Hi, Mom. If you're reading this, you did it. You stood up. You didn't let him win. And I knew you would, because you always did. When I fell off my bike at 7, you were the one who stood me up and said, 'You're not broken. You're building.' I never forgot that. Not when I met Todd. Not when things got hard. Not when I got sick, I couldn't stop everything. But I could leave you the tools to finish it. And you did. So here's what I want now. Rest, sleep in the cabin. Make soup again. Hang wind chimes. Paint. Laugh. And when the days get heavy, because I know they will, read this again and remember, you are stronger than loss. You are more than what they took. You are still here. And so am I, always, Emily." I couldn't stop the tears. Not this time. Not even a little. I pressed the letter to my heart and rocked slowly under the open sky. Everything she'd done. The cabin, the envelope, the safe, the recordings, the will. It was never just about protection. It was love. The deepest kind. The kind that plans for your safety even while it's fading away. The next morning, I packed a small basket, apples, a cup of tea, and Emily's letter. I walked into the woods behind the cabin, just a little way off the trail, found a soft patch of earth near the creek, and there, I planted a tree, a dogwood, her favorite, because she said it bloomed even in hard soil. I placed a small wooden sign next to it. Emily's hope. Every time the wind moves through those branches, I hear her. Every time the leaves flutter in the sunlight, I feel her. Todd is still facing charges. He's quiet now, small, the way truth makes cowards shrink. And me? I'm rebuilding, slowly, but with purpose. I hang fresh laundry in the sun, make tea on cool mornings, and sleep with the windows open, because I'm not hiding anymore. I'm living. For both of us, and whenever I doubt myself, I go back to her words. You are not broken. You're building. If someone you loved left you a final letter, what do you think they'd write to remind you of your strength? Tell me in the comments. I'll be reading them from the porch, with the wind in the trees and Emily's hope just a few feet away.